Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Tell Not Show. We are your hosts, Julia J.K. Allen and Kirsha Fox. This is Kirsha Fox, author of newly released Son of Deception. She's a homeschooling mom to four, reader, and gamer.
Hello, this is Julia J.K. Allen. She's an editor, author, and author coach. She's enjoying several new writing projects this year, and she is just literally the best ever. I've got.
Oh, you're going to make me blush on camera.
Yeah.
And we're super excited to welcome our guest, Wendy Cole, today. Wendy Cole grew up in the wooded areas of northern Alabama, where she spent her youth catching fish, climbing trees, and reading romance novels too advanced for her age. I can relate. At 18, she migrated to Florida, met the love of her life, and then had a bunch of kids, bought a dog, and then asked herself repeatedly why she bought a dog, even though she loves the dog. At night, after everyone has gone to sleep, she likes to sit on her screened porch and create new worlds for others to enjoy. So welcome, Wendy.
Yes, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
I love the bio. I can relate to reading books that were definitely not age appropriate for me.
I think I was 11 and I read Dean Koontz Intensity.
Okay.
And that was I don't know what I was thinking reading this book, but I had a teacher reading it, so I went and got it from the library. And
yeah, we were kind of not as supervised back then. As long as we were reading a book, like my mom was happy as long as I had a book in my hand. She didn't really care what the book was about.
Right.
But yeah, I was reading like romances and even like scary stories and just stuff that I really probably shouldn't have at that age. But you know, I was actually like 2 when I watched my first scary movie with my family. So I think it's pretty par for the course, right?
Yeah. Created a bunch of unrealistic expectations very early.
Yeah. Right. Oh,
absolutely.
Well, yeah. Do you want to tell us about your writing journey and like what got you started with writing?
I started with writing in my early 20s. I had always been like really into reading. Like I was a reader and I read all the time, but I never really thought about writing. And then once, the online writing really started to become a thing, where you could share your work out. And I realized that I was like, I could try writing. And then it just turned into this, like, it's like, I can't believe I never wrote before that, because I realized just how passionate I was about it. I just never, I never thought to. So then I got really into it, and I spent the past, I guess, 11 years growing and learning how to write.
I think it's nice that when we find our passion, just like we just have that realization of like, why didn't I start this sooner?
Right.
So the fun thing about you that really caught my attention is that you said you're trying to write a romance in every genre. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I love romance. Romance is my favorite. It's my thing. I love romance. I always have. But I hate the reputation that romance has, where everybody just assumes, romance doesn't have a plot and romance doesn't, have, deep characters and all of that. I know a lot of people don't feel that way. Romance readers don't feel that way, but there's like this stigma when you tell somebody that you're reading a romance.
Absolutely.
And my main goal with every romance I've ever written is to completely like smash that idea. So all my books are very themed. And then at some point I want to write a book in every genre. I don't want to limit myself to just one. And I know that hurts me because you want to kind of stick, build your audience, when you're bouncing all over the place. So that's why it's a romance for sure in every genre, because then at least I still got one thing theming.
Right.
There's a bit of a trade-off there, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think that like a lot of people like to read a variety of things. So they do say like, stick to it, stick to your genre, stick to like your niche. But I think there are a lot of readers that are like, I'll kind of read everything, and if they like your writing
Mhm.
style, then I think that they don't mind
Yeah,
when
I
you
have a
kind of
lot of
experiment.
readers. I have a lot of readers who've read all of my works because
Nice.
it's still the same writer. It's the same
Mhm.
style, the same approach to it. And even though like
Right.
they're completely different from one another,
Right.
like my newest series is a um like a speculative fiction,
Mm-hmm.
dark dystopian romance.
Yeah.
Dystopian is
Yeah.
definitely popping up a lot more, I'm noticing, as a genre.
Yeah, I've noticed a need for it. It seemed like
Right.
they were looking,
Mhm.
for that. So, um, thankfully, because that's what I wrote.
Right. Perfect timing how that works out
Right.
sometimes.
Yeah. It's like I think that's the lottery part of it because you never really
Right.
know until it hits, and unless you're really fast, by the time
Right.
you get it done, it's gone. But
Mhm.
Yeah, that is one thing is it's more about anticipating what people are going to want to read next rather than chasing trends.
I got off topic though. Sorry.
That's
Oh, no,
fine.
you're
Yes.
fine. What does your writing process look like? Like, what is it? How do you go from like idea to draft?
It kind of varies.
Mhm.
Like sometimes I'll sit and I'll plan out every single character and give them a total complete backstory. That's something that I really like to do because I feel like it helps me get the emotion right
Right.
earlier.
Mhm.
But then a lot of the times I'll just have a generalized idea of who they are and what their life was like key things about them. And then I'll learn about them. Like I'll get to know them through the first draft. And
Mhm.
then when I go back and revise, that's when I really start writing the story. So the first draft is kind of just like an outline to me.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
So instead of like doing a total, like planning it all out, I just bang out a draft and then I like use it to write the book.
Mhm.
Right. So you kind of tell yourself the story first.
Yeah.
I've
Okay.
described this process to people a little bit before, where I'm like, it's a little bit like painting, where you start out with a sketch and you add in the
Mhm.
details that you know, and then you start playing around with colors a little bit. You get the base coat in, and you just keep going over and over and over it, polishing it up, and until it's
Filling it
complete.
up. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I prefer doing it like that, but it's a lot slower doing it like that.
Mhm.
So
Right.
sometimes I don't have the luxury. I have to kind of more
Right.
so know what I'm gonna write. But I feel like you lose a lot of magic when you do that because
Mhm.
just going in and just being able to just wing it with no pressure, and you're not gonna keep any of this stuff. Like you can get some really good stuff when you're doing that.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
feel
Right.
like when I know exactly what I'm going to write, it
Mm.
kind of takes away the possibilities that could have happened.
Yeah. My sister's kind of similar. Like I need to know a little bit of what's going to happen so that I'm just not so I don't get stuck and just not know where to go next. But my sister is very much like if she has an idea and she figures it out too much, then she's like, I don't even want to write it because I already know what happens.
Right. Maybe that's it. That maybe that's what bugs me
Right.
so much about it. But generally I'll know how I always know how it's gonna end, and like
Right. Mhm.
Mhm.
because and then I just let the middle
Figure
do
itself
whatever it's
out.
gonna do,
Yeah.
and then I'll go back and fix it.
Assuming your characters cooperate, that is.
Yeah, yeah. Assuming
Right.
I like to do everything very character driven though.
Mhm.
So
Right. Mhm.
like the book I'm writing right now is like not what I plan to write at all. But
Oh,
it's going
right.
good. It's going good,
Right.
I can go back and redraft it. I don't have any kind of crazy deadline on it, but yeah.
That
Awesome.
sounds awesome.
All right. So, what are some things that you've overcome as an author?
Well, I'm a mom too. I've got 4 kids. And I worked a job for a long time that required me to work a lot of hours. Like I
Mm.
was working like 120 hours a week.
Oh,
Oh gosh,
wow.
Sometimes,
yeah.
like it was like I was the boss. So if somebody else wasn't there, like I owned it. Like
Right.
I basically lived there. Um, so writing kind of went on the back burner a ton of times, and it took me a lot longer, I feel like, to get where I am because of that. But then me and my husband started our own business, and it made it so we were able to work around each other, work around everything a lot easier, and it was
Oh,
a
nice.
lot less hours. So then I was able to really kind of focus on my writing again because I had time. And I got published right after that, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was like literally right after I quit my crazy hour job that I had been at for like 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
I publisher I got a response from a publisher.
Okay. So, you're traditionally published then?
Yeah, it's a small press. It's
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
a medium press, but yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of nice how things work out in life, right? Like we have no idea. We take a leap of faith, gonna quit this job that's draining everything from us, and then you get that perfect opportunity at the right time.
I know. It was so scary to do it. Just not
Oh, I
even
can
like about
imagine.
writing, just quitting to do, self-employed, is such
Yeah,
a huge risk.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I was terrified. But
I
it
can
worked out. It worked
imagine.
out
Yeah,
everything. And I can't imagine ever going back to that other job again. Like, I cannot
right.
imagine ever doing that again.
It sounds exhausting.
You realize
It-
how much you missed of your kids too. Because even though I
right.
saw my kids every day,
Hmm.
like being home more and like being present and being there at dinner every night, and
Mm-hmm.
Right.
holidays, it just, all of a sudden you realize like they're different people than the babies there were. I wish I'd have done it a lot
Yeah.
sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can imagine because, like, life is about all the small moments, right? So you can know
Hmm.
somebody, but it's that when you spend time with them, it's those small moments that really tell you so much about people in your life. And so I can imagine it was a huge difference being able to just be present and around your kids more.
Yeah, it was amazing. And then plus too, like it took a lot of the pressure off, a lot of the stress. I had a lot of stress and like
Mm-hmm.
health
Yeah.
issue causing stress from that job.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
just I was able to write so easy. Like I was writing a chapter a day. Like I would
Yeah.
literally write while my youngest daughter was in the bathtub
Mm-hmm.
because she was, doing it herself, but she was still
Mm-hmm.
little, so she
But you
couldn't
still need to
really be
keep an eye
alone.
on them.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I would
Yeah.
sit in a chair right outside the bathroom door
Right.
and write while she was in the tub every day. And I would get the whole chapter done in like an hour. It
Yeah.
was a really rough
Yeah.
chapter, but it
Right.
wasn't it wasn't a struggle. I wasn't like
Mhm.
pulling like just like prying words from it, you
Yes.
know?
Right.
Just pours
Right.
out because you're so happy to be
Mhm.
finally writing, and you're just inspired. I feel like I keep it bottled until it's ready, and then just
Mhm.
Then
Yeah.
turn on the tap. Right,
yes, turn on
right.
the tap.
I know when we talked before the show and we asked what your strengths were, you said your strength is really like emotional writing.
Mhm.
So I'm really curious as to like what you do to access the different emotions and how that then translates into your writing style.
Well, first of all, it's weird for me to say that uh I'm good at something. It feels
Yeah,
like I don't know.
we're all kind of our own worst critics,
It's
right?
Yeah,
yes.
but I've been told that I'm good at this. And what I do is when I make my characters, I give them whole backstories, and then I try to emulate, like, what would this person do who had this experience? Like I really try to dig into the psychology of it. with each character's behavior. And I feel like that helps me find the opportunities, like the opportunities for those big emotional moments as the characters grow.
Good.
Okay, so it's, for me, it's like acting.
Mhm.
So like when I love to write in, I've written in third person, but I love to write in first person because I feel like you can really get the emotion more in
Okay.
first person because you're inside the character, like you can really feel it.
Mhm.
And it's like, for me, it's like acting. I feel like writing and acting are very similar
Mhm.
because you
Right.
have to embody this character, like you have to become that character and like live that experience that they're living. And then I feel like when I can do that, when I actually get
Mhm.
close enough to a character where I can do that, then it's like I'm living it. So
That
Yeah,
is
so you
so
just
well
really
said.
embody.
Yes.
so you can really, like, you feel the emotion, and then it
Mhm.
just, you just convey it. You
Mhm.
just say what you're feeling.
Yeah. So you just kind of like really embody the character and the situation and then find a way to put that into words.
Yeah, well, and research certain things. I try
Mhm.
not to get too far away from things that I don't know, like
Mm.
that aren't my own lived experience. But
Right.
some things, you can just like imagine. Like if a guy, say I made a character and the guy was a zookeeper and a tiger
Mm.
ripped his arm off 5 years ago. You know what I mean? Like I could
Right.
really do a lot with that. I could do a
Right.
lot with that. Like this guy could, like, I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
No,
you
there's
completely know what you're saying with that. It comes with its own set of hardships that he has to overcome and little things in his life that he has to modify to make up for this. And who wants
right.
to date a guy with one arm? And yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of material to
Assuming
work
he's your male
with.
protagonist, that is.
Yeah, when you're like assessing somebody's situation, then you can really figure out a lot to write about with them.
Mhm. I love how you put that, though, that authors are a little bit like actors, where you put on the
Mhm.
mask and you pretend to be that person. I love that so much.
Yeah. What are some like pitfalls that we should watch out for? Like when we're trying to write really emotionally and emotively, like, but what are some stuff? What's some stuff to look out for?
Okay, so one thing that are a few things that I've learned. Um, you don't want to write the world, like, go through your work and find every time that you use the word feel or
Right.
you use an emotion word, like,
Mhm.
um, angrily,
Right.
or any emotion word at all. Sometimes, it's anything that you do, it's a give and a take. It's not a absolute rule because sometimes it's better just to use the emotion word. But in big moments, like when important moments for the
Mm.
character, if you go through and you find those words and just cut them and
Right.
do something else instead, like write or get in the character's head and do, like, monologue and inner thought and use simile and use metaphor and just do
Mhm.
or compare it to the like environment. I mean, like, physical reactions, obviously, but I
Mhm.
feel like
Right.
physical reactions are better than saying I feel or an emotion word. But there's like so much more you can do too. Like you
Yes.
can really dig in and just use the prose to, like,
Mm.
convey, like you're acting, like you're giving a monologue, the character is. And not only that, but like making sure that you're close to the character, that your reader's able to be close to the character, because if you use a lot of filter words like I saw and I heard, and
Mhm.
then you're putting your reader at a distance. Or you say I saw a man across the street, then they're seeing you see a man across the street. They know that you saw a man across the street versus
Right.
so there is a man across the street. Then
Mm-hmm.
they see the man across the street.
Mm-hmm.
So it's little things like that in the body of the work too, that really, put yourself in that character, and then when you have those big emotional moments, they'll feel it.
Yes. I think you have just
That is awesome.
described exactly what the phrase show don't tell is. You just completely
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
like blew
show
that out of
don't
the
tell.
water.
And
Good.
and you know, even show don't tell, it's like it's a give and take, because sometimes you ought to
Right.
just tell it. But big moments, especially emotional moments, like that's my pet peeve. Actually, not my pet peeve, like when I'm reading a book, because every style is different. I read all kinds of different books.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind it so much sometimes, especially in third, because when
Mm.
you're third person, it's a little different. But when when I'm critiquing with someone, or
Right.
like working with someone, just like a critique partner, like I will pick them apart for that. They are.
Yeah. It's great advice because, like, one thing I've seen people who are trying to write more emotional stuff, but they're just telling statements, right? I was angry. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. This
Hmm.
and that. There's no like power or depth behind the words, right? We're just
Hmm.
making statements. So I love that advice of like, don't show like I see someone, just show the person.
Yes.
But there's definitely a time and place for those telling statements. Like, we don't need to know you turned on the keys in your car and then shifted the gears and then drove and then parked and then, all that stuff we
Yeah.
don't need to know.
Yeah.
But for the impactful stuff, I've seen people that are writing big battles or a fight scene and they summarize it. And I'm like, no, show us the battle. Like, we want to
Yes.
see stuff like
Well,
that.
you know what I found with battle scenes, not just having them see everything, because in a battle scene it's going to be chaotic, but then
Right.
what you could do is, what I try to do is, I'll do like real quick, sharp, short sentences, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of play into like the environment, and like
Right.
it's like snapshots, of this and this and
Mhm.
this, and it can be difficult to not um, come across as like giving off details like one right after the other,
Mhm.
because
Right.
I always do that on the first draft, and I have to go back and fix it. um, but just using like short sentences when you want that high action, and using long sentences when you want to like slow it down,
Right.
and yeah.
I love that. You absolutely will keep your readers in the character's head
Hmm.
Right.
when you make them think like that.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
When you're overwhelmed, it's short reactions. You can only just react, really.
Yeah.
Right.
Wonderful. So you mentioned metaphors. What do you do with metaphors that makes your writing really stand out?
I love metaphors. I think metaphors are amazing, and
Uh-huh.
and I love movies where you have to find the meaning behind the movie. Like
Mm.
where you're watching one thing, or books, like when you're watching one thing or you're reading one thing, and you think it means this, but it turns out it has like this whole message behind it. It's almost
Mhm.
like an Easter egg type of deal to me. Like
Right.
having to sit there and deep think and figure out what it was that the writer was trying to show or say.
Oh, yeah. So much
And
fun to pick it apart.
I love it, and that I try to do that. Like I try really hard to do that. I have one character, actually. I think this is the most cut and dry example that I have. Um, I have one character, and he like was raised in a swamp until he was a very small child,
Mm.
and then the person who was raising him died. So he was like grew up in this swamp all by himself, with like a Tarzan type situation.
Mm-hmm.
So in his like so when he is found by my main character. He like is very basic animal instinct, like, you know, caveman type deal.
Mhm.
But then he's taught by my characters, you know, like he's taught, and he grows as a character, and he ends up becoming like the anti villain in my story. And his whole character is a big metaphor for like toxic masculinity, and boys will be
Mm.
boys.
Mhm.
So like how they say, you know, well, you can't expect a man not to do sleazy things. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Mhm.
they have no control whatsoever. So by showing his character and the way his character grows, you get to see that, like, here's this person who's literally raised by alligators and acts like a Neanderthal, you
Mhm.
know, and but it's all about how you raise them, because
Right.
he's taught how humans should behave, and then he acts human.
Right. Right.
And that's just one example. I have metaphors in all my books, like small metaphors. Like I'll have a
Mm.
running theme usually, you know, like one detail that just keeps popping up, and then it kind of fits in when you get to the end.
So you have like
Yeah.
reoccurring themes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's
Very cool. I love writing because it's such intentional use of the English language or whatever language you're writing in. And so I love that you really think about what you're putting in your story and how to like add more depth and stuff to it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think makes for a good metaphor? Like,
Well, the great thing about metaphors is they allow you to take something and show it, like take something mundane or something, you know, totally different, and you can use
mhm,
metaphor to help put somebody else into that perspective. So
right,
by, you know, it's like you're able to convey it in a way where people can understand it.
right.
and,
mm-hmm.
and that's what I love about it. But I think that's what makes a good metaphor, is just it, the message that's behind it, and
Mm,
whether or not it really um, shows what it is that you're trying to show.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for
I love
sure.
the idea of shining the light on truth and the real world through the lens of fiction, through the lens
Hmm.
of fantasy.
Hmm.
Right. Fiction is a great thing that it allows us to tell the truth through stories that are not true, right?
Right.
Yeah. So what writing advice have you gotten that you really liked that really helped you grow as an author?
I've had so many mentors
Mm-hmm.
over the
Mm.
years, and I've had um, tons of critique groups and little Facebook groups and book clubs and people I've met. But um, I reached a point where I felt like I really wasn't growing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I could tell that I knew I wasn't done growing. I
Mhm.
just hadn't found anybody who could say whatever it was I knew I needed to hear, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Like I knew there was something my writing was missing, and I couldn't find anyone that wasn't telling me stuff I'd already heard, you know.
Right.
And but then I made a friend through a friend, connected us together, and she is she is like amazing. Oh my god, the way she goes through my work is ridiculous, and I should be paying her, and I'm not. And she really like dug into help me like because I would have these prosy moments, like I would have these poetic moments in my writing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Naturally, like just poetic moments in my writing, but it wouldn't really get in there the way it could. Like she just really got in there and pointed out and said, you could do something better here. You could, I know you're better than this, and she wasn't even telling me what to do. It just like, it just made that come out
Uh-huh.
right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it was just happened naturally before, and I couldn't like, for some reason, I was not going through and really trying to bulk that in there more,
Mm-hmm.
if that
So
makes
your
sense.
advice to maybe a younger author would be to find the person who challenges you, who makes you
Right.
be a better
Oh
writer,
yeah,
better person,
always.
but
I love mean people. Like I love mean people the most. I want mean people around me. My favorite, my favorite betas and my favorite like critique partners that I've had were so mean. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And but that's what you want, because once you start looking at it from a viewpoint of I want to grow, I want to get better at this, I want to learn
Mhm.
this craft,
Mm-hmm.
then critiques stop hurting. Like
Right.
it doesn't offend you. It's, you want that. It's a valuable thing,
Mhm.
because you can find a million people who will tell you how great it is. You know,
Right.
it's
Right.
finding
I'm
the person
still
who will
looking
tell
for a
you
million
it's
people
not
to tell me my
great.
book is great. I'm sorry, interrupted. Keep going.
Oh,
But I understand completely what you're talking about. You don't want people who are just going to sugarcoat everything and tell your
right.
book is great when it really isn't, when it could be better. You want the truth.
Yeah. When I stop getting any real feedback, I get so frustrated. Like, I just
Mm-hmm.
want, tell me what's wrong with it. Just tell me what's wrong with it, because
Mhm.
we get so close to it, and
Right.
Yes.
it's like, it's there. There's something there that's not right, but you don't know what it is. And sometimes
Right.
it just takes one person to say one thing, and you're like, that's it. That's what's not right.
Hmm.
It's like when you go to the grocery store and you don't know what you're forgetting.
Oh, I hate that feeling. Or like they've moved everything and you're like, this was in aisle 7. Where the heck could it be now? Like,
Right.
Hmm.
what influences your writing, would you say?
My environment.
Okay.
My environment influences my writing. It and sometimes like I don't know it is until it's over,
Mm.
and I'll realize either something from my past or something that I'm dealing with in the present. I'll see it after I'm done writing the book. Yeah, my environment.
Simple
That
answer.
just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Simple answer, but very true. What's going on in our day to day lives often finds a way into our writing. That's why it's so therapeutic.
Hmm.
Mhm.
It really is like, um, it's something about putting it out there in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you let it go a bit. Like it's still there,
Yeah.
but you let it go.
Yeah, absolutely. Writing is so freeing sometimes.
Cool. So you mentioned earlier how you don't have a whole lot of time because you're a very busy mom. Do you Have you ever struggled with like reoccurring like writer's block? There's a lot of people who hit writer's block and they don't know how to overcome it. So how do you overcome it when it hits you?
Um, I don't think I do.
Okay.
I'm kind of blocked right now, actually. Like
Oh yeah.
I had to write a book in a very short amount of time, and I had to rewrite the book that came before it
Oh.
before I could even start that one, and my brain just kind of got really mad at me, and I now everything I write is like I'm just dragging the words out. So I guess my answer would be, just don't stop writing, because
Mm.
I can go back and I can fix it.
Yeah.
It's not good. I know it's not good. I know what I'm doing right at this moment is not good, but you have to get something out on paper because you can't do anything. It's all, it's making sure you remember that you use a different part of your brain to create than you do to revise. And if you
Right.
go at your manuscript expecting it to be perfect, or even if you're not if you're just expecting it to be good,
Right.
like
Right.
it's not gonna be. Like it doesn't have to be, because you can go back and you can fix it. It doesn't have to be good.
You can't edit
Yeah.
one page, as they say.
Yeah, and I always tell people and remind myself that like good writing is rewriting most of the time. Like
Yeah.
it's just about getting the story out and telling it to yourself so that you can edit and polish it up later.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so do you have a favorite author or favorite book, and why?
I have so many.
Yeah.
Tell us about them.
But my favorite, I would have to say, is Animal Farm
Oh,
Yeah.
by
Good
George
one.
Orwell,
yeah.
Mhm.
because we talk about metaphor.
Yeah.
And that whole book is one big metaphor, and it was
Yeah.
one big really easy way to show something really important. And I've read it so many times, and my latest series, when I set out with the first book, I said I want to write a Orwell romance.
Yeah.
Orwellian romance.
Yeah,
Wow.
like I want to do like that kind of overarching metaphor,
Mhm.
and and with a romance.
Hmm.
It wasn't as straightforward a metaphor as Animal Farm, or probably
Right.
anywhere near as good as Animal Farm. So don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
that was kind of like, I wanted it to be political,
Mhm.
Mhm.
but political in a way that no matter who reads it, they're going to think it's all about them.
Right.
Or it's on their side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when I make a bunch of money off of it, I'll say what side it was really on.
Nice.
That's
Sounds like
too
a plan.
funny. Yeah.
Once it's already
Oh.
done.
Well, it's fine. It actually would completely work because every side believes that they are the good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It'll be funny if
Yeah.
they actually look at it and go, "Wait, are we the bad guys?" Like when things look
Right.
a little too
Right.
familiar. Yeah.
Well, not only that, but I made it very, like actually, oh my God, I don't even know if I could like say that. That would be a total spoiler.
Yeah.
But it both sides end up being good, equally
Oh,
good,
Right.
equally bad.
Right.
So I mean,
Very true to
well,
life,
there
right?
is no bad guy.
yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's true. I mean, everyone is nuanced and has pros and cons, so it makes a lot of sense to have both sides be nuanced like
It's the
that.
human experience. We're a bit of both.
yeah,
Right.
everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something, right?
Right? Yes. Okay. Do you have any writing advice that you don't like, that you don't feel reflects your experience?
That was a hard one,
Mhm.
because I like all writing advice, even bad writing advice, you know, because I learned what not to do. You got to take all advice with a grain of salt. You can't just take everything everybody says to heart. You can break rules intentionally.
Mhm.
Like if you can, it's not, and no rule is like absolute. Everything is cut.
Right.
So I guess when people tell people that they need to do, like, you could tell when somebody just learned show don't tell,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and then they'll go and they'll tell everybody that they they work with after that, or or review everything and say, it was, you need to show and never tell, and they'll say it on things that are like unimportant,
Yes, the
Right.
because they learned a new thing, which is great,
Mm-hmm.
and then it goes to the extreme, and then you learn later that there's a balance,
Mhm.
Absolutely.
and it's not just that, like anything where somebody takes it to the extreme and tries to act like it has to be that way every single time.
Right. They're just applying a broad brush stroke instead of being more nuanced and have the fine
Absolutely.
details.
Yeah.
I suppose the advice you hate is that there's any one way to do something.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Awesome.
actually one of the reasons why we wanted to do this show, is because every person has a different way of writing and finding their process and writing style, and so there's so many different ways of doing it. We were like, we want to
Yeah.
talk to people about their process and
Mhm.
their writing style. Is there a certain place that you tend to find your inspiration, whether that's like reading other books, or people watching or something like that?
I I am I can't really describe it without sounding like a total hippie. But 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 I swear, like, I'll sit
Hmm.
and I'll deep think, because I always want to be really original. So I will literally sit and try to search for an idea that has not been done or is like super crazy unique. And they
Hmm.
say like the original thought is dead. Like there is no
Hmm.
new ideas.
Doesn't mean you
There,
can't try.
and
Right.
I hate hearing that, because I'm like, well, how do you know? Like, how do you know that
Right.
there's no? I know, like, everything's been done to some extent, but how do you know? So I try to
Right.
find it, but I haven't. But
Right.
I feel like it makes my works really unique. It makes them very niche, but it makes them really unique, and that's something that I like. So I'll just sit and I'll deep think, and it'll happen, like I'll just get a snapshot, like with the book I was talking about earlier. I just got a snapshot of this person who lives in a swamp in a shack,
Hmm.
and is like a wild person, and then everything just kind of built from there through a series of what ifs. And I'm influenced a lot by whatever I'm reading, or like stylistically.
Right.
I'll find
Mhm.
myself, like, I read The Bell Jar while I
Hmm.
was writing book two, and all my prose ended up being super poetic and like just long metaphors, and
Hmm.
um I was in love with it. But I really did, like, I couldn't believe how much I like really leaned in on that
Right.
when I was reading that
Mhm.
around the same time that I was writing that.
It sounds like it really resonated with you.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh yeah. The fig tree quote. I was like, golly, man.
Yeah, there's some gems in that book for sure.
She was a genius.
Yeah. And I'm very sad that we lost her so young. Yeah, the world could have benefited from her writing more, for sure.
Mhm.
I wish she'd written more books.
Right.
A lot of poems, though.
Yes, yes. She's one of my favorite poets. Yeah, Sylvia Plath is. Yeah. Is there, you mentioned, you have a series out, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
So, tell us a little bit about your series. Do you have like a new release that just came out, or?
Yeah, well, my series is on the new Next Generation reading app from Wattpad Webtoon Studios, called
Mhm.
Okay.
Yonder.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's right now it's a 4-book series called Toxic Nature. And but it's an ongoing thing. So it keeps going on the platform. And the fourth book in the series was just completed recently. So
Congratulations.
thank you.
All right. And then where can we find you online? Where can we learn more about your series?
Yeah, well, you can find me at When Dizzy Writes on TikTok, and that's my main platform. You can also find me at When Dizzy on Wattpad if you read on Wattpad.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and be sure to join us next week for our next guest. And remember, there's always more than one way up a mountain. To be on our show, you can find us on social media at The Tell Not Show or email us at thetellnotshow@gmail.com.
Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you again, Wendy, for being
Thank you,
on.
Wendy.
Thank you.
Thanks again for listening. If you enjoyed the show, consider subscribing and liking. We appreciate all the support. Julia J.K. Allen is an author, editor, and coach and can be found at hijinksrudder.com.
Kirsha Fox is an author, avid reader, gamer, and mother to four, and you can find her at kirshafox.com. Thanks and see you next time.